Hello, welcome back to MidEast In-Depth, part of Levant TV's press reviews. While the ISIS flag was flying high in London, it was burned in central Beirut. Michael Young writes an interesting piece in the Beirut-based Daily Star, and it's on the role of moderate Sunnis in the moderate multi-faith Lebanon. The decision of Justice Minister Ashraf Rifi to take legal action against young people in Ashrafiyeh who burned the flag of ISIS was inept, Michael Young argues, in claiming to want to protect the Quranic texts on the ISIS flag. All Rifi did was open himself up to the charge that he was currying favor among the ISIS sympathizers in his own community. According to the writer, Rifi put himself in a collision course with Christians who burned the flag, but the Justice Minister is not alone among moderate Sunnis in failing to grasp what ISIS means to Christians as well as to the Shiites and the Druze. For all three communities, it is an existential menace. This is a debatable point, he says, but it happens to be circulating freely among Lebanon's non-Sunni communities. It was remarkable, for instance, that when television journalists went to predominantly Sunni Fdayde last week to interview people on the beheading of a soldier from the town, Michael Young reminds us that almost none condemned the killers in ISIS. Instead, they turned their anger against the state and politicians. The Lebanese state can be blamed for many things, but it did not senselessly murder Ali al-Sayed. And today much more is needed to neutralize the foul sectarian mood in the country. Most Lebanese Sunnis are not responsible for ISIS, but that doesn't mean they can sit by and do nothing. Sunnis are at the center of national attentions and anxieties today. How they will respond will determine how all other Lebanese communities react to them. And also on ISIS, let's look at foreign policy. In the US, Dennis Ross writes in the Washington Institute on ISIS a piece titled "A Strategy for Beating the Islamic State." The writer says since containment is no longer a viable option, Washington must build a regional coalition of the willing to roll back the terrorist group. Ross quotes Obama saying, "We don't have a strategy yet." With those words, President Obama seems to have encapsulated everything that his critics have been alleging for months, that he's improvising, halting and altogether slow to react to the rise of the Islamic State, the brutal terrorist group that has seized much of Iraq and Syria. But I have to add here in fair critique to Ross and US foreign policy makers, only now we start hearing descriptions like the above on ISIS fighters previously, and in the case of Syria, for instance, they used to carry the pro-democratic opposition brand. And back to the article, Ross says it's easy to focus on Obama's comment and ignore the real issue. What is the right strategy for countering ISIS? President Obama has an approach for countering ISIS in Iraq, but understands that he cannot succeed against ISIS without also dealing with it in Syria, a safe haven in Syria where the Islamic State is able to plan, recruit, rearm, recover and return to battle is a prescription for enduring war in Iraq and for increasing threats in the region and even to US homeland. Ross then goes on about other options where the US can engage with the international community over the ISIS. He then concludes the threat posed by the Islamic State makes an international response possible, provided we don't equivocate about our objective or the means we are prepared to employ to achieve it. We need, in a word, a strategy. Then he indirectly suggests Obama doesn't have this strategy. That was it for today's brief analysis. For more updates, please visit our website, levant.tv. You could also subscribe to MidEast In-Depth on iTunes. Thanks for watching and bye for now.